I'm a bit disappointed that, unlike Chuka, I'm not a man to get down to business with. I'm not sure what that I'm supposed to. But I know that Ed will thank Maggie for the work she's done. But to Maggie, and also to Mike Wright, who's done our work on the manufacturing supply chain, Andrew Donis on local growth, to John Armitt for the work that he's done on infrastructure, George Cox on the wider business and long-term arena. It's only the partnership that we've had with business leaders and people who understand business and what we need to do to create an economy which works for all and delivers more good jobs and rising skills. It's only that partnership which can enable us to get the policies right to go into government next year. So thank you to all of you for coming along this evening. And what is a huge and fabulously successful business reception. Now, Chuka referred to our leader, Ed Miliband, and you would be forgiven for thinking that Ed is looking a bit tired on the stage here. But as Chuka said, it's been a very busy few days. Ed's been dealing with the aftermath of the financial crisis in high-level talks, forging a way forward on big issues, transatlantic trade, the Middle East peace process, dealing with the cost of living crisis, forging an understanding which I think will be globally recognised for its importance. And as well as spending 3 days in Milton Keynes at our National Policy Forum, he also managed to fit in a quick meeting with President Obama in Washington as well over the last few days. But we have had a very good weekend at our Policy Forum, and I think we can firmly say that's a policy agenda which is pro-business but not pro-business as usual. And I know Ed will say this when he speaks, but the thing we hear when we cross to the other side of the Atlantic and speak to our partners in America is they cannot understand how, at this critical time for foreign policy and for economic policy, that Britain could be flirting with possibly walking away from the largest single market on our doorstep, our membership of the European Union, and all the jobs and investment and influence which comes from that. I think it's a very, very foolish position for us to be in as a country. And we want to say loud and clear, we're for reform, but we are not for walking away from the millions of jobs and the billions of investment which depend upon that relationship. And the irony of having a debate yesterday in the House of Commons where everybody was saying we must work together in Europe to solve a foreign policy challenge as we flirt with walking away from that economic relationship. It makes no sense. And it's exemplified by the fact that, I don't know whether you saw in the last couple of days, David Cameron has nominated Lord Hill to be our new commissioner. Jean-Claude Juncker, the new president, announced through his spokesperson he had to look up on Google to find out who this Lord Hill that David Cameron was sending to Brussels was. I think we're confident that Lord Hill is a good and fine man. But on the other hand, clearly his name currently doesn't have resonance in policy circles. You'll understand that, from my point of view, I've always had a name that people tend to remember once they hear of it. I was doing a Q&A for The Independent a couple of years ago, the Independent newspaper at our Labour Party conference, and you get these questions where they'll give you 20 questions you have to answer. And the final question from a reader, which was in The Independent on that Monday morning, was, how have you coped with your surname? And my answer was, if you think it was bad for me, think how much worse it was for my sister Ophelia. And I was having lunch that day with the editor of The Independent, and as we sat down for lunch, he said, "Is your sister really called Ophelia?" And I said, "No, it was a joke. My parents were that." But I'm in an unusual position in politics. I have three particular records which I can claim to be absolutely mine and mine alone. First of all, I am the slowest ever runner of any member of Parliament in the London Marathon. No one has ever been slower. Secondly, I am easily the most effective fundraiser in the London Marathon of any Labour MPs, over £150,000 for 2 charities. And thirdly, I am the only member of the House of Commons where BBC presenters get embarrassed when they pronounce my surname correctly, which is the opposite of the problem that Jeremy Hunt and Tessa Munn have in their own lives. But it's my job to hand back to Maggie to introduce Ed Miliband. And I think that the reality of the discussions he's had, not just at the National Policy Forum in Milton Keynes this weekend, and our Inclusive Prosperity Conference 2 weeks ago, but also with the President in the last couple of days, is that we will only sustain support in our country for Britain as an outward-looking global economy, engaging in Europe, leading in Europe, reforming in Europe, but as part of Europe, working with business, creating the wealth, getting the investment, making the profits, but then investing them back in our economy. We can only do that if we show that we can make our economy work for all and not just some. We have to have an economy which works for working people. We need to translate investment and growth into rising prosperity. That is a challenge for economies around the world. It's a particular challenge here in Britain. It's an argument that Ed Miliband made in our politics before anybody else in the last few years. I think he's been proved right, and it's now our responsibility to work with you to put in place the policies so that we can show an open, outward-looking, wealth-creating Britain can deliver rising prosperity for all. That's our commitment to you. We can only do it with you. So thank you for coming this evening.